Right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Quickfire review. This time it's Grimsby Town, and you can imagine this is going to be quite a somber occasion. I'm joined by Alex Green, host of the DN35 Podcast. Recommend you go and have a listen to that. It's about Grimsby Town. Have some great interviews on there. Really enjoyed your one with John McDermott. Actually, that was a fun one, wasn't it?
I was slightly worried about John, but he was absolutely brilliant. I mean, there were certain questions about certain owners we couldn't ask him because his feelings are quite prominent. So he's been enjoying this week at least.
Indeed. Well, right, let's jump in. And the first question is, how have your team performed against expectations?
Yeah, much better. No, I think we were hoping for mid-table mediocrity. We'd finished the season quite well actually last year. We just got mediocre instead. Actually, I'd have settled for mediocre. It didn't match expectations whatsoever. It was an absolute train wreck.
It was indeed. I remember doing our preview podcast, and I had you finishing third from bottom, and I got slated by a lot of Grimsby Town fans for being negative. I think,
and rightly so. You're miles away.
Yeah, I was well off, and I was really bad. Who's been your best player this season, if you can actually find one?
Yeah, well, taking loan players out of it, and there's special mentions to Jay Matete, who's brilliant, Roland Menezes, who's been fantastic at the back as well. Elliot Hewitt's been our one actual Grimsby signing, who we have. It was our best player. Really strong, moved to centre-back sort of midway through the season and excelled at it. He's usually actually a right-back, and he was phenomenal. Really grown into it, has been an absolute sort of legend with it, and has sort of taken that role and done really well with it.
Yes, he's played everywhere, hasn't he? Like at some point, I swear he's played sort of wing back, midfield, right back, centre back. He's pretty versatile.
Him and Harry Clifton, I think they've got a chart somewhere in the changing room where they're ticking off the positions they've played. They both have sort of just will do what you need them to do and just say, yeah, I'll do that, whatever. I don't know if he would feel like this is the position he wants to stay at, but he's almost a better centre back than he was a right back.
Yeah, it's funny. Players fall into those roles, don't they? And you're just never quite sure, what they're going to end up being. But yeah, I agree. I think he's actually been really good this season, in a season that has struggled to find good players. I mean, which player has surprised you, good or bad?
Right, settle in.
Oh dear.
The senior pros have really sort of let us down massively. You're looking at people like Sean Scannell. I mean, he didn't even turn up. He was absolutely
I'm just
pointless.
checking you, Sean Scannell. Oh, yes, he does play for you, yes.
Well, apparently so.
Yeah.
Waste of space, waste of a wage. The only thing that I remember from him doing this season is storming down the tunnel when everything was falling to pieces. George Williams, he played at Euro 2016, and I assume he never came back. He's came in with a bit of talent, has not produced it whatsoever, clearly not liked by Paul Hurst because he's not even naming him on the bench, and we're running short. We actually, the last two games, have only had 5 or 6 players on the bench, which shows exactly what he's like. And then you're looking at people like, I don't know, Massini, who came in for 10 minutes, kicked off and then left, and then Matt Green's been ineffective and pointless, and James Hansen is, I think, Mr. Glass, and then on top of that, I guess we have to mention the feckless oaf that is Ian Holloway, who needs to be run out of any town that he's with.
Yeah, yes. I can't say what I'm going to say, to be honest, but there we go. Who has been your best signing in a season of not many great ones, I would imagine?
Well, we've got a fair few to choose from. We've had 45 of them. But Giles Coke and Lenny Lawrence. Oh, I'm going back to managers.
I was going to say, he must be getting on a bit.
John Lewis and Giles Coke came in over the winter, have been phenomenal. They've been with us for 4 months. We know what Lenny's like, and we've already top goal scorer. I mean, it's not really much of a feat. He just overtook Matty Pollock, who had 3, who was our centre-back, who hasn't played since February. But Giles Coke has been an absolute wall in the middle of the park. Went off the pitch in tears, as did both of them. on Tuesday night, and they've only been with us for 4 months. He's been great, and I'd quite like to see him stay around. And I didn't expect that when they came in from Hereford.
No, well, exactly. I certainly didn't think that of Coke, who had some real bad injury problems, for sure. What opposition players impressed you the most?
It pains me to say it, but George Taft at Scunny was absolutely imperious when he played against us. Absolutely rode roughshod over whatever we put in front of him. I don't think he had sort of a bit of a purple patch when we played him back then, as was Scunny having at the time. He seems to have sort of gone back into the weeds, but when we played him, he was phenomenal.
Yeah, I actually think he's been probably their best signing, which says a lot for Scunthorpe, because they've not done very well, and they're the only reason I can't quite 100% say Southend are down yet, which is crazy to say that with 2 games left. But there we go.
Go Southend.
Yeah, well, yeah, indeed. Which opposition team has impressed you most as a whole?
Yeah, there was quite a few. So the first time we played Bradford, they scored some absolute worldies. I think that their overhead kick won goal of the season. Tranmere tore us apart, but I think Morecambe overall over the 2 games we played them have just been really efficient, really prominent. Scored 6 against us over those 2 games. Both were in busy periods, Boxing Day and then earlier on this month, and they were just resolute. Did everything by the book, and just took us to pieces without really getting out of third gear. What they've done out there with their budget has been phenomenal.
Yeah, complete huge credit to Derek Adams and the entire playing squad for making Cole Stockton into a great striker. If you'd seen him play for Tranmere and I think it was Carlisle, you'd be amazed. But he's been a revelation this season for them, which just shows, with a bit of good coaching and the right system, these players can really thrive. So brilliant stuff from them. What team have impressed you the least, shall we say?
And we can't pick ourselves, no?
No, I'm afraid.
Salford stunk the place out both times we played them. They were pretty pedestrian, pretty agricultural.
Didn't they have 12 men in that game at the Peninsula?
Well,
one of them was wearing black, but that's irrelevant to the...
I mean, someone should really check to see if he's a Man United fan. But then again, even if not, there's only 5 people.
He wasn't called Gary, was he, by any chance? And had a brother called Phil.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Well, the problem is, if you're refereeing that and you see Roy Keane in the stand, and that's only the person you can fixate on, no wonder he was so controversial. So we say, it was a slightly odd one. They stunk the place out. Cheltenham have been really poor both times we played them, considering how well they've done. Obviously, we beat them at their place, but sort of no help to us whatsoever. But both of those teams stood out as particularly poor amongst ourselves.
Right, formations. Which in terms of which one have you used the most? I think you've used every formation going at one point under Ian Holloway. I would say, which one do you think suits your play the best?
I think we've been playing a 3-5-2 of late, which has sort of suited what we've had, and just because we've had to throw caution to the wind recently, he can then slot back to his sort of 5-3-2 place, which he's been doing, and that's been working quite well. It's just taken a bit of time to get used to, and we've occasionally just gone bog standard and gone 4-4-2 as well. But 3-5-2 is probably the position we've played most of this season.
This might take all night, and I'm afraid it's a quick-fire review. But what's your worst moment of the season?
The worst moment was probably when the takeover was put on ice for about 30 seconds when the 1/3 of the consortium left, because that kind of left us with no hope whatsoever. But it was quickly rectified. Tuesday was inevitable, but was still a bit of a blow. That's probably it. There was a lot of them, but I think those 2 stand out mostly.
And it might be a very short list, this one, but your best moment of the season?
Hopefully the 5th of May when the takeover gets announced. The 23rd of December was pretty entertaining, with about 15 statements that came out in one moment. That was probably our best moment, because it meant that we knew there was going to be a takeover happening, and our feckless owner was going.
Yes, that is the one hope for this season, isn't it? That you will have new ownership and finally a new era, despite it being in the conference. I I would wager long term that this actually might be a blessing in disguise, but we'll obviously only time will tell on that front. But getting rid of Mr. Fenty is probably the biggest blessing for Grimsby Town, despite all the woes that you've had this season. So
I don't think you'll find a happier set of fan base that's rock bottom of the Football League. I'll be entirely honest.
yeah. It just shows you how bad owners can ruin everything. But there we go. No football seen by any supporters in stadiums, apart from a few brief ones when they had trials and tests and stuff like that, when we thought it might all come back. But what have you missed most about going to matches live?
I think we're all rather cheesy on this one. I miss the camaraderie as an exile. I miss connecting with my hometown on a sort of a part-time basis. It's quite nice to find a little bit of home in a random place where you notice everybody and recognise everybody as you walk around. I've really missed having some sort of fan activism this year. That would have been quite nice to have seen how the fans would have reacted to it. And that's really it, because I certainly wasn't missing free-flowing football.
No, indeed. Well, early days, and it looks like Paul Hurst will probably be with you next season. So what are your hopes for your first campaign back in the conference for a number of years?
I think we're going into it well prepared. I think we understand what we're going into. Idiots aside, I don't think anyone is under any great expectations that we're going to romp away with it. And I think that equips us better than ever for dealing with it. It is all a bunch of unknowns, but we're with a manager we trust 100%. And as long as we don't lose 5-0 to Braintree, which we did within about 3 games of beat in the conference for the first time, I'll look forward to it. So I'd expect playoffs, because they've got about 85 playoff spots now in the National League, I think.
It's about mid-table. You can go to finish mid-table and still win the playoffs, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we'll get to it. That's what I would expect. But I'm not sure whether it would bounce straight back up. I'd hope so, obviously.
Well, you hope so. Yeah, we definitely want Grimsby in the EFL. It's an EFL club. It's just outrageous. But at least, like you say, if you're not in the relegation places, you're in a playoff place in the conference. So it's hope indeed. Final question: using just 3 words without swearing, sum up your season.
Worth the pain.
Worth the pain. I like that. I like a bit of optimism, despite everything that's happened. Brilliant. Alex, we always seem to record at ungodly times. It's either very, very early in the morning or, as it is right now, pretty late at night. Before we go, can I just ask you to let everyone know where they can find you and your very good podcast?
You can find us in a pub nursing our wounds, but usually we're at the DN35 Podcast, so it's well worth getting on to. Our Twitter account is worth having a look at too. We've just put up a wonderful thread on what soap opera this season has been.
And I'm sure if you go and find him, if you go and follow Alex and the podcast, you will not regret it. It's been fascinating listening to him this season. Get some great guests on as well. And if you've got time, go and listen to John McDermott one. It was great. It was a really enjoyable listen. Thank you very much, Alex, for going through that painful moments of the season with me again. We hope that you will be back with us in 12 months or something like that. Yeah. Not too long, back in D3, D4. Thank you for watching this, everyone. Hope you appreciate the content we're putting out. Any suggestions, always welcome, as you know. But we'll be back with another quickfire review. And until then, we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.